We'll bring you back in on that as well. And then Kevin had to.
Okay.
Good afternoon and welcome to Nutmeg Sports on the HAN Network. Frank Granito in studio alongside Kevin Coleman. Wednesday, November 15th, we've got plenty to update you on from the state tournament. We continue to look ahead to our upcoming coverage of the 2017 Turkey Bowl. And we'll be joined by a guest as well this afternoon. Kev, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. As we roll on throughout the state tournament, starting to see who are these champions going to be, who's ending up in the final. We got some semifinal games tonight. Got the boys soccer final tonight between Naugatuck and Glastonbury. That's going to be a fun matchup between the 1 and 2. Of course, we got a lot of FCIAC teams remaining in girls soccer and field hockey.
Oh, that's big because after the tournaments for boys soccer, the dust settled there. You don't have an FCIAC school in the championship game. It almost takes a little of the luster away from how good this conference has been all year. Now you've got an all-FCIAC field hockey championship, 3 total FCIAC teams in field hockey. Girls soccer, we could potentially see an all-FCIAC championship as well. And, of course, we've got a championship team in St. Joe's for volleyball, potentially Greenwich. So lots going on for the FCIAC, and for that we want to welcome in the website director of FCIAC.net and sports editor for the New Canaan Advertiser, Mr. Dave Stewart. Dave, thank you for taking time with us this afternoon. How are you doing today?
I'm pretty good. It's good to be there. It's a big time of the year.
It's a big time of the year for the FCIAC, and again, they are finding themselves right in the thick of it with championships. Let's start out with field hockey. Class M, you were at Brantford, or were at the game last night. Number 8 New Canaan, number 4 Brantford. A 2-1 victory for the Rams. We were just speaking off the air, Dave. This is a young Rams team right now who is really probably exceeding expectations. What was your takeaway from that semifinals performance?
Well, you know, I think there were 2 things really, and I was impressed with Brantford. New Canaan's played them the last 3 years in a row in the tournament, and knocked them out all 3 years. Last year was also the semifinals. That was a 1-0 game. I felt like New Canaan handled them pretty well last year, and this year Brantford played very, very well. When it came right down to it, New Canaan's defense, Emily Guida in the goal was phenomenal with 8 saves, and their defense just held up really well. And you know, if you don't score, Brantford scored 1 goal really late in the game when it was already 2-0, and there was 49 left on the clock. But yeah, they held up, and if you outscore the other team, you're going to win, and that's what New Canaan did. They made the most of their opportunities.
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned Emily Guida, because now New Canaan playing in the championship game against number 2 Daniel Hand, who has been an offensive juggernaut this year. How important is Guida and this defense going to be if New Canaan's going to have a chance in this game against Daniel Hand and the Tigers?
Well, that's going to be really important for New Canaan, and if they play as well as they did last night, they'll be right in this game and maybe getting their third championship. You know, I've been impressed with. There's a few girls out there. Katie Metler, Catherine Metler came up with a couple of great stops in front of that when the ball got loose in traffic. Megan Mitchell is a powerhouse back there. She scored on a penalty stroke. You know, and they've got about 4 to 6 people that they can kind of filter in, you know, rotate in on defense, and I think they've done a very good job of getting those people in and keeping people fresh in these games. Because, you know, once you get to the state tournament, you're not facing any pushovers anymore. All these teams know how to win, and even if they haven't played the same schedule you might play in the FCIAC, they're still very good, and they still go in expecting to win. So you got to be able to hold up and have depth on the team to win.
Dave, looking back at one of the articles you wrote in the New Canaan Advertiser about this field hockey team, I really like this article because you also mention a quote from senior co-captain Elizabeth McCarthy, who mentioned when she was an underclassman, they won states, and she reflected on how important that was and what that meant to those seniors. Now she's a senior and a captain. How do you think this is going to feel for Elizabeth? Because looking back at her time here at New Canaan, and not just for her, but for the rest of this team, because not only are the seniors stepping up, but they have juniors and even the underclassmen stepping up and making some great minutes for this field hockey team. What is this going to mean for the field hockey program if they're able to win that state title?
You know, I think it's a big thing. You know, when you look at it, they've had, you know, Kelly Marks has done a great job with this team, but she is a new coach, and you're learning a whole new system. And I think all these younger girls, having all those younger girls on that team, learning their way through, I think what you're seeing is that it's starting to click with them. And you know, they've tried some different things. There was an adjustment period. Kelly's their 3rd coach in 3 years, so these girls have had to adapt every single year, and they've been very good at it. Obviously, straight state tournament games now, and they're in the finals for the 3rd year in a row. But I think the youth on this team really bodes well for the program as a whole. I think you could see them contending for an FCIAC title within a couple of years, with maybe even next year. You know, you got girls who are you know, Estelle Asker, who's a sophomore. She's at center mid. She's been great. You got Marley Smith, who's a freshman, who's been a scoring machine for them. You know, she comes up big. She had a goal last night, their 2nd goal. Megan Mitchell on defense is going to be back next year. Emily Guida is a junior, and Caitlin Fico, who is another goalie, she's a sophomore, and she's been solid this year too. So, that's just a few of the names too. There's a bunch of others that are going to be back. So I think the future is pretty bright for this team.
I definitely agree. The future is very bright, and this is a squad that's most likely in the next 2 years going to find themselves back in an FCX championship game. But right now, the cream of the crop in the conference has been the Darien Blue Wave this season. So strong, and another big win last night, Dave. 4-1 against Enfield in the semifinals. They now match up with Staples in the Class L championship game. How much of a shot are you giving the Wreckers here at taking down the mighty Blue Wave? Because that's what they have been this fall.
Obviously Darien knows how to win in the postseason. They do it every year. Doesn't matter what their record is going in, if they have a couple of losses, if they're the one seed, if whatever is going on. So they're kind of the veterans of this. The one thing I think you have with Staples is that they are, they've been there before. Obviously, they played each other last year in the state final. I don't think you're going to have the same type of intimidation factor you might have if you're, say, a non-FCX team and you see Darien coming at you. Like Enfield. Enfield had given up. I think it was only a few goals this year, and they give up 4 to Darien. Darien just really handled them. I really think that. You're not going to have that type of factor in there. I think Staples is hungry. They beat Darien during the regular season, and I think that makes this a great game, which it was last year too.
That's right.
So I think that's one thing that.
You're right there too. This is a rematch of last year's state championship game. These guys were co-champions. Kevin and I were talking before. We could potentially be seeing Darien Staples in field hockey and Darien Staples in girls soccer as well, Kev.
It is. It's a great matchup between these two squads here in the FCIAC. And Dave, I want to get your thoughts on these two semifinal games because we just spoke about these two FCIAC teams not only meeting in field hockey but meeting in girls soccer in the semifinals. Darien Staples, Darien number 8, Staples number 4. But then you move down, you got number 6 Glastonbury taking on Richfield, number 7 seed, which is the rematch of last year's final. Which semifinal do you find more intriguing, and who do you like going to the final in girls soccer?
Wow, that's a tough question because these 4 teams, you could throw these 4 teams into the mix for 10 times and come out with a different winner. All the time have different results and stuff. I just think all these teams are great. Glastonbury rematch, but Darien Staples. Obviously, those 2 teams have been great all year. It's interesting with soccer too. In the postseason, it becomes such it's kind of a cat and mouse game when you're out there. The game kind of you have to have an ability to kind of slow the game down and look at things that are going on. It's almost like the Major League Baseball playoffs. When you get in there, things you either have to slow it down or things get too fast for you. I think obviously being an FCX guy, I like the Darien Staples matchup. I think that's great. But boy, it would be great to see Ridgefield get revenge on Glastonbury and just, it's just a great rematch there. But all 4 of those teams, though, I could see any one of them winning.
Just a couple more questions for you here, Dave. One of them for me being, you look at all the FCX teams right now that are potentially on the doorstep of a championship game. So you have got Darien and Staples in field hockey along with New Canaan. Darien, Staples, Ridgefield girls soccer, Greenwich, and St. Joe's in girls volleyball, and of course St. Joe's in girls volleyball as well. Which one of these teams right now do you think is the closest to being a lock to win a state championship this year?
I was thinking about that the other day. I really think St. Joe's in volleyball has, is in real. I think they're in really good shape. I think that the fact that they lost in the FCX final when they had been so dominant all year, I think it's made them hungry. They've pretty much shown that in the state tournament now. They've just rolled through 9 sets after having the first round bye. Really haven't been challenged. If you look at their scores, I think their closest set, I'm looking here at 25-19, the first set against Haddam Kenilworth in the semis. I just think they're on the tear right now, and I think that final has made them hungry. And I feel like if you're gonna say one team's a lock in the state final, in the state championship, I think that's it right there.
I agree, and I'm glad that you mentioned that FCAC loss because I think it was a little bit of that humble awakening too. You know, they had been so dominant all year, had played so well, and you take that tough loss against Greenwich, it redefines that motivation and keeps them pushing on. So I agree. I think St. Joe's and girls volleyball is as close to a lock as you could see. I also think their soccer team is playing very well. Kev, you had one more question here.
Yeah, Dave, quickly, just to go back to girls soccer quick. You look at Darien, and I know you covered New Canaan a lot with the New Canaan Advertiser, but obviously Darien being right next door, this is the farthest this girls program has been in the girls soccer program. They make it to the state semifinals against Staples. Just what is it about this Darien team? Because they lose to Richfield in the quarters of FCX. Then they come in and they take control of this field. They take down #1 Suffield in the quarterfinals. Now they get a date with Staples in the semifinals. What is it about this Darien Blue Wave team about 2017 that impresses you the most?
Well, the thing is with Darien, I think with all Darien teams, and we've seen this over the last few years. These programs just know how to win, and I think they kind of feed off each other in terms of having that mentality. You could have a couple of teams that have a down year, but everybody really has it in the back of their mind that we're a winning program, we're a winning, overall at school. And I think what's happened with Darien is playing in the FCAC, day in and day out, game in and game out. I really think that sets you up well for a good state tournament run. Now, they did face an FCAC team in the first round in Danbury, but I think that was a game that they knew they could win, and they went in, they just wanted to get by it. Shelton team, and obviously Suffield, that's the team right there. And defensively, they played really well in the playoffs. But I think you go into playing a team like Suffield and you're Darien, you're not intimidated by them. You're not really knocked back at all because you've been facing teams like St. Joe's, Ridgefield, Staples all year long, and you can play with them. And I think Darien, once you get the 1-0 lead in a playoff game against a team like Suffield, doubt themselves a little bit. And I think that was key in that game for Darien to get the early lead and say, hey, we can do this. We're going to move forward with this and try to work with that one goal. If we can score another one, we will. But, we can hold down the fort. And obviously having Fiore in goal, too, is she's incredible.
So 12 shutouts on the season, so always going to give them a chance. Just a final thought from you, Dave, here before we break. Yesterday, the All-FCAC team was released for boys soccer. 25 players named to the first team. Kevin and I are in agreement. There's got to be a better system somewhere out there. That's too many players to be recognized as a first-team All-FCAC player. It's diminishing the value of that reward. I just want to know if you had any thoughts on that list.
Yeah, there's some sports that do it well and some that don't. Just to put it bluntly, like if you look at, I think you mentioned this last week during your little rant there about the All FCAC team. I felt like the volleyball. I agree with you. Volleyball did it well. 8 players. You've got 6 on the court in a game. You get 2 extra because there's always good players out there. I feel like in boys soccer you had 25 kids there. Girls soccer you had 22, and I do think guys who really deserve the spots, it kind of diminishes the overall being on the first team when you've got guys. They're the 25th player who gets voted in to the first player who gets. They're just not on the same level, and I would like to see that number come down. I'm not one of those people who's so strict on it that you have to have like one person for each position and all that. Because I feel in some cases you could have 2 phenomenal goalies out there.
Oh, I totally agree with that, Dave. I do. I agree with that, and I said the number should be somewhere around 14. You've got your starting lineup, and then give them, wiggle room on some swing players. I think you're right on the money with that. That's a good number, and I don't think that's too excessive. But I think what some of the stuff that happens is because each sport does it based on what coaches want to do and what they do when they get together as a committee. I think sometimes you get some coaches that say, okay, I've had this guy on my team for
3 or 4 years, and he's put in his
Yes,
dues, and
that's
he's
right.
close to being on the first team, so let's just put him there. And I don't know. I think it diminishes the award.
I agree. It does. It becomes a career accomplishment. It's just a program award recognizing your time, and if that's what we want it to be, then it can't be named as an all-conference award. Dave, always fun talking with you. We got to take a break here, but we will see you soon. Of course, next week we got the Turkey Bowl. I'm sure we're going to catch up with you plenty before then.
We're getting ready. It'll be fun.
Be good, Dave. Thanks again. That was Dave Stewart, sports editor of the New Canaan Advertiser. We're going to take a break on Nutmeg Sports. When we get back, Kevin and I have got plenty more. We'll get you ready for tonight's state championship playoff games. That's next on Nutmeg Sports on the HAN Network.
Yeah, Dad.
Kyle, I need you to update the financial statements.
I took care of that yesterday, Dad.
Mac, I need you to get those deals approved.
They're all done, Mr. Miller.
Jeff, I need you to order lunch for the meeting. They can't do a thing without me.
Right now, lease a 2017 Sentra S for only $97 a month.
I'm never going to retire.
Bankwell combines the best personalized service with high-tech banking features for our customers' convenience. We pride ourselves on being a strong community partner. You don't settle for average in anything else you do. Why settle for an average bank? Don't just bank when you can bank well instead. Visit mybankwell.com for more. Manfredi New Canaan is celebrating 3 exceptional years selling Rolex watches and fine jewelry to the Fairfield County community. We appreciate all our loyal clients and look forward to welcoming and helping you discover the perfect gift to celebrate life's most important occasions.
At Galt, we always put you first. As your full-service home heating partner, we provide expert delivery, installation, and maintenance for all your heating needs with knowledgeable, friendly professionals that give you peace of mind 24/7. Galt Family Companies, you first since 1863.
Welcome back to Nutmeg Sports on the HA Network. Thank you again to Dave Stewart joining us. Always fun catching up with him. Glad he shares our opinion there on the all-FCX situation right now.
It has to be taken care of. I think you look at next year, maybe it's something we talk about because starting 11, maybe even a starting 14. I like that idea. It can't be 22 to 25 players.
All right, let's quickly look ahead to this afternoon's action, Kevin. Let's start Ridgefield and Glastonbury. The player in this match that will be the most important to one side winning.
It's Catherine Barlow. And really Claire Middlebrook, too. The two of them in the middle of that defense have to stay strong because Glastonbury has a lot of lethal weapons up front. This is a fast team that can really move forward, move the ball up the field, and really be able to create some scoring chances in their opponent's own 18-yard box. So if I'm that back four for Richfield, and if I'm Lauren Castle, the keeper for the Richfield Tigers, I'm barking out that someone always has to be marked up, whether it's set pieces, any opportunity down the field that the Tigers feel pressured on, that back four needs to stay strong, and it starts with Claire Middlebrook and Catherine Barlow. I'm
going to go the opposite side of the spectrum here. I think it's actually Caitlin Slaminko and Faith Arnold for the Tigers. Glastonbury is going to score. I would be extremely impressed if the Tigers were able to hold them off the board. And not that they can't do it, it would just be a very difficult feat at this point in time in the year with such a program like Glastonbury. But how does the freshman Arnold help get Slaminko into space, give her opportunities to keep Ridgefield in this game? Because you're not going to win without scoring, and she has got to be the player to break through offensively.
You're 100% right. Faith Arnold.
I know.
Yeah, about soccer too. That's we're getting you there.
Yeah,
Faith Arnold has to have a great game. This is going to be. Hopefully the pressure isn't too big for the freshman. So far this year, she's lived up to it. I think she's been terrific. Slaminko has to create some scoring chances. And it starts with Emma Jacobson, too, in the center of the midfield. She's kind of the rock in the middle of the field. She'll take a hit, and then she'll go right back at you. And she's not easy to take down. And she starts everything. She really is able to develop the game, plays the ball out wide, slows the pace down a little bit, and really gets good opportunities for the Tigers. So those type of players, those big names in the Tigers, need to get going, especially up front with, like you said, Frank Slaminko and Arnold. And Emma Jacobson has to be strong in the center of the field.
All right. Now you've got Staples and Darien in the other semifinal. Same question. Who's the player you are keeping an eye on there?
Ooh, this is a tough question because you look at throughout this roster, I mean, there's a lot of good players on this team. And the back four for Staples has been...
do you want me to go first? Because my player was going to be Olivia Ronka. And it's Olivia Ronka and that back four because Darien is going to do their part in keeping you off the board, okay? Right. You're going to have to get a break and find a way to get through against them. What you cannot have happen is similar to what we saw with Shelton, where you dominate defensively for, let's call it 75 out of the 80 minutes, but 2 bad bounces in space are enough that Darien wins. Olivia Ronka and that back four, the senior leadership there, if they can prevent those kind of breaks, those kind of opportunities for Darien, that keeps the Blue Wave at bay and out of their first ever championship.
Right, I was going to say because this back four for Staples has a difficult task at hand because they're going to have to deal with Katie Ramsey, and she's been terrific this season, especially look at that Shelton game. Even though she had that finish in the first half that got them a 1-0 lead, she herself, even if she doesn't really necessarily score, she creates that opportunities for her other teammates to be able to score. And she finds her teammates as well. She stretches the field, stretches that back four. And I think Katie Ramsey is going to cause problems for this back four tonight. And I really do like the Darien Blue Wave. And I think if Fiore continues to have her terrific playoff run, if D'Annunzio continues to play well in that back four for Darien, I like Darien's chances because this is a Darien team that right now, if I'm any team playing in this tournament, there's one team I don't want to face, and it's Darien.
It kind of feels like a little touch of destiny to that team right now. It
does.
Too. You know, these girls have just put it all together. They're doing such a great job together. I'll keep an eye out for, because I think they'll match up with Ramsey, and they will put a lot of attention on her, Kev. You're going to see 2 defenders at a time responsible for Ramsey across the field. Honora Brown.
Yeah, I thought she was good, yeah.
On that wing, she's back from injury now. She's scored in that game against Shelton. She'll be a player for Darien that could find some open space. What does she do with those opportunities? Is she looking to create offense, or is she going to seize that option herself and maybe try to generate scoring off her own feet?
Nora Brown, I thought, was excellent against Shelton. You look at that team as a whole in that second half. First half, even though they went up 1-0, there was a bit of a lull to that first half, especially the way it ended. I didn't like the pace that Darien was playing. The second half, I thought they were a much better team. They finally were able to create some passes, slow the pace down, get possession, really be able to stretch that back four of Shelton. Look what happened. They scored another goal, and I mentioned Honora Brown. I thought she was excellent. That back four, again, D'Annunzio stood out to me the most in that game because I thought she was great. She's also not only is she known to be a great defender in that back four, but she drifts up field. And she's able to score, too. She's also that threat that, you know, the coaching staff lets her kind of have freedom on the field, Frank, where they'll let her drift up and play, you know, right behind Katie Ramsey as a 1-2 punch in a way, as 2 almost forwards that play right behind each other. And she'll float up on set pieces as well. She's dangerous, and she's a good scoring threat as well for the Blue Wave.
It's going to be a lot of fun in that game. You've got in Class L as well, St. Joe's going up today. What do the cadets need to continue doing to keep their success going in this tournament of Class L?
It's Jessica Mazzo. I think if you continue to find her the ball, she's great at checking to the ball. I mean, she plays in the center of the field. She'll check to the ball, find her in open spots. She'll beat defenders, switch to the other side of the field. And, of course, you know, that back forward with Tori Bike, I thought they've been great. It really starts with Jessica Mazzo, though, because she's able to find open teammates. Even herself, she's not afraid to take shots from outside the 18. And I think at this level, not enough girls and boys have enough confidence in themselves to do that. And she has the confidence and she has the grit to be able to take St. Joe's to the next level.
I agree, and I think across the board you see a lot of that confidence on that roster. That is a team not shy about testing goaltenders from all over the field, and it's part of the reason they have so much success offensively. I believe the Michael Scott quote was, "You miss 100% of the shots you don't take." St. Joe's doesn't have that issue. I'll go with Veronica O'Rourke. It's an obvious answer, but offensively, Daniel Hand won't have enough to keep up with St. Joe's. If O'Rourke plays a good game here, they're back into a championship.
It's an obvious answer, but it's the right answer. Yeah. Without her, I don't know if St. Joe's is winning the FCAC title either. Look at that last play at the last seconds of that FCIAC final game. Without her, they don't win that FCIAC title, and they're not in the semifinals of the state tournament without Veronica O'Rourke. So that's a good answer as well.
All right, we got to take one more break here on Nutmeg Sports. When we get back, though, we continue getting ready for the 2017 Turkey Bowl. Kevin and I touch upon a new topic today. That's next on the HAN Network.
If you've ever thought about owning a motor coach or learning about what it's like to travel the open road in superior style and comfort, then contact Dave's RV Center in Danbury, Connecticut. Offering the best quality Class A motorhomes from Newmar, travel trailers and fifth wheel lines from Surveyor, and a toy hauler line from Work and Play. Choose from Newmar's Gas Line, Baystar and Canyon Star, or from Newmar's Diesel Line, Ventana and Dutch Star. And with unparalleled service and maintenance, Dave's RV is committed to keeping you and your motor coach safely on the road and enjoying it to the fullest. Stop by their showroom, 2 Industrial Plaza Road, Danbury, Connecticut, or call 877-483-3866.
Whether you're looking for a great test prep program, tutoring to boost your grades, or a blast-off tour with the college of your dreams, C2 Education is here to help. There is nothing one-size-fits-all about our programs. We offer customized tutoring and test prep for each student. Call us today at 203-423-3328.
UK Gourmet is the largest specialty grocer in the area, featuring food from England, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. Over 80 teas to choose from and a brilliant assortment of biscuits to go with them. Over 70 cheeses from grass-fed cows, which makes a smashing difference in taste. The creamiest chocolate you'll ever taste using no artificial colors or preservatives. So say hooray for UK Gourmet, 78 Stony Hill Road in Bethel, or visit ukgourmet.us.
At Rings End, we say it's time to re-love your home. Time to refresh and reinvigorate the way you live. And whether you're redoing something big or small, remember the letters RE stand for Rings End. We're the new model in home remodeling.
My advice to an 8th grader would be to really investigate all that prep has to offer for you.
Welcome to Prep!
Fairfield Prep is announcing an additional exam date of Saturday, December 2nd. Register today at fairfieldprep.org.
Back on the HA Network, Frank Granito, Kevin Coleman. Kev, we got a couple minutes left here. 2017 Turkey Bowl, what's your topic you want to focus on today?
It's penalties for the New Canaan Rams. The couple times we see them this year, especially that first game of the year against St. Joe's, it was unbelievable how many penalties they had, especially on the O-line. The false starts, the offsides, and it was crazy. And speaking to Coach Lou Marinelli after the game, he said it needs to be fixed. And I think slowly they've progressed that way. But that's something, and we've touched upon it all year, you have to play perfect against the Darien Blue Wave. If you want to beat them, you have to be perfect. No penalties, because if you give them good chunks of yards on penalties, free yards on penalties, they're going to beat you.
I agree. Free yards will absolutely kill you. And we saw them against St. Joe's game 1 this season, 18 penalties, a school record. They had 9 penalties on 3rd downs that produced a first down and extended the drive. Then against Greenwich, 16 penalties, second most in school history. So their 2 losses, they've had more than 15 penalties in both those games. So it will obviously be a huge thing. The big one for me, you talk about the procedure penalties, and those are mental penalties, completely controllable. I want to see what happens in the secondary. St. Joe's realized they had matchup advantages. They exploited players in that New Canaan secondary, and it led to a lot of those pass interference penalties. I don't know how many are truly pass interference. You had a bunch of holding calls as well. But what is the Rams secondary going to do now? Because this is an offense outside of Greenwich that will test you about as well as St. Joe's did. They've got the receivers that could cause mismatch problems, and Joyce can throw the ball in tough spots. That's the penalty that I want to keep an eye on. And something else that we really, it's almost been overshadowed because of the mental penalties and the defensive pass interferences. This is a New Canaan team with a lot of personal fouls.
Yeah, especially in that Greenwich game. I was amazed. Amazed.
So, yeah, it's little things like that, and penalties are going to be enormous. And you know the Rams are preaching it. They've been, it's had to have been a point of focus since that Greenwich game, if not since St. Joe's. How do you control your emotions in a big game like this? Because the Rams are playing for their playoff lives, at jeopardy of missing the state tournament for the first time since 2004 if they do not win this game.
I think something else, and you mentioned, Darien going over the top and really attacking secondary for New Canaan. I thought you look back at that game we did against Darien Staples. I thought actually Darien exposed that secondary of Staples, especially in the second half. I thought Jack Joyce wasn't afraid to feed the ball to Brian Minikis a couple of times over the top, and look what happened. There were a couple pass interference calls that led to Darien making some big drives and ultimately ending up scoring. But I think early on, especially, you talk about controlling your emotions in a game like this. New Canaan can't be trailing. They can't be falling behind early on against the Blue Wave in that Turkey Bowl game.
I agree. I think if you see a scenario like last season, the Rams do not fare as well and find a way to get back into it. So it's going to be a lot of fun. That's going to do it for today. Thanks again to Dave Stewart. Always fun having him on. For Kevin Coleman, I'm Frank Granito. We'll see you next time on Nutmeg Sports on the HAN Network.